Hello and welcome to the Django office hours, Django New York City. My name is Harry Moreno. Let's jump right into it. Hopefully others will join. So yeah. Anyway, so I want to cover today leaflet. I've had a couple of people ask me. A couple of projects have come by me that are sort of wanting to do stuff with leaflet. Leaflet is for maps. And I kind of want to just go over basically just a very introductory kind of how to get started with leaflet and Django. We'll probably time box this maybe 30 minutes. And yeah. So let's see, how would you start? It'd be nice to maybe start with like Django plus GeoDjango. I don't know exactly where to find a boilerplate for GeoDjango, so I might just start with Django X. So there's a tutorial. Here's how to make a map, tiles, maps. It's all JavaScript. And there's a quick start. So maybe let's start with Django X. Django X is a pretty popular starting point for Django projects. Let's go ahead and use this and just say Django leaflet, Django X leaflet demo. And here basically GitHub has this newer feature where you can set a project as a template, and then they'll have this button here. It says use this template, and basically in one click I was able to clone it with a fresh sort of Git history. And I would like to just copy this locally. So let's go somewhere. Django. Let me make a directory for Django projects. Surprisingly, I don't have one yet. And let's dump it in here. Clone it. All right, let's cd into the project. The quick start. So Django X ships with pip-env, and that means that we can very quickly sort of just use pip-env to install the dependencies. And then go into the environment with pip-env shell. And I'll go ahead and bump up the font on this. We can migrate, hopefully. So I have an alias here for migrations that'll migrate. Okay, that looks like it detected my database just fine. We can create a super user, test at gmail.com, test 1 2 3, test 1 2 3. Go ahead and make an insecure user, insecure password, and we can start the server. We can, so I already have another server running, and so run server, You can specify an alternate port, and I'll do that just to illustrate that. That's kind of like a lesser known feature of Django. You can just specify a different port. And the reason I'm doing that is because I have another Django server running on this machine, and I just wanted to show that that's possible. That's like something, a nice little piece of trivia there. And at this point, we would have the, let's see. So they show a thing here, a link here. You can open the URL that way using control click. And over here, let's open it up in Chrome. And seems like Django X ships with the debug toolbar. That's pretty useful. You can actually move it up and down here. That's something that I didn't know early on. And there's a about Django X footer. Okay. Log in, sign up. So this is what you get with Django X out of the box, right? So you get a very basic sort of starting point. So that's cool. Now, what if we wanted to do something really, really quick with leaflet? So if we wanted to just, excuse me. Hey, what's up? Oh, okay. All right, I'm actually recording like a very quick start with Django and leaflet. Do you mind just sticking around until like I'm done with it, or do you have something that you want to, or do you like want to talk about something else? Yeah, sure, that's fine. I'm just trying to like time box it. So I started roughly at 320, and if I just want to see how far I can get by 350, and then just like have like a cute little 30-minute video on YouTube about this. But so far what I've done is I've cloned Django X. So Django X is a really popular boilerplate for Django, and it has a couple of good things in it, like it's a really good starting point that's a little bit further along than just what you get from the tutorial. So I've already cloned it, I'm running it locally, and then this is it running locally. And then the next step is I just want to dump in like a leaflet map and do something with it. So and I'm very green on it. So this is sort of also me just trying to learn a little bit about it. And there seems to be a quick start here. Quick start. So preparing your page. So you want to include the CSS, it looks like. What's your name? Yeah, I forgot the name. My name's Harry. Nice to meet you. Pretty much, I'm the organizer. Yeah. So the Django NYC group has been going on for like many years. It sort of lost momentum, and I was like, well, let me step up and like, yeah. So I'm sort of the organizer now. We had an interesting event last week where it was like a global meetup. So yeah, it was like a global sort of initiative. Nice. I can't find the template for the root. Is it home? So let's just do a sanity check here. So if we did hello. Oh, right. So this is weird. Uh I need to tell VS Code not to indent it. This HTML file. Because when I save it, was it on save? Format on save. So I delete this. Or unset that. Alright, so this is definitely the home page. And it says that somewhere in here we want to dump or require this CSS. HTML trivia, do you know if you can just link a style sheet like in the body like that? Yeah, I think the right way would be to like dig into the base template and maybe stick it in there. So there's this div here. I think we can just so I think the JavaScript would lock onto this item, make sure the map container has it defined, blah. I wonder if there's a CSS file. I don't see a CSS file. So you can just put this in a style tag, I think. Inline CSS. All right, and then maybe that would work. Okay, so you need to initialize it. So inline JavaScript. All right, that does it. Yeah. This is really just, I've actually never done leaflet, and I just want to see how far I can get within half hour, and then just put it up as a video, just like rushing through it. All right, so you can put stuff on the map. That's cool. Dealing with events. That's like zoom changes, and that's the quick start. All right, so that's the quick start, and I guess that walks you through being able to render a map and like putting polygons on it. I wonder why, like, do you need an API key? Why isn't that showing? So I think when we ran this JavaScript here, it'll do lmap, it logs onto the map ID, the element with map ID, and then it sets the view here. Because when we didn't have this, we wouldn't see anything, right? So that sort of, I think, creates the DOM element there, right? So when this JavaScript executes, we then see the map, but this map doesn't seem like it has anything interesting in it. So I'm wondering if many times they require like an API key or something. Maybe you need a tile layer. You need a token, okay. Yeah, you need to request an access token, and then you need to provide that to the tile layer, my guess. I need to sign up for this. What do you have questions about? Yeah. Yeah. No. Oh, Vincent? Vincent? Yeah, Vincent, he's the one that created this Django X boilerplate. So after you sign up for Mapbox API and you set the access token, so I'm gonna wipe this, right? So I'm already gonna destroy this after the video, but that is the leaflet thing right there. And what I wanted to do, okay, so we've rendered it. This is nice and all, being able to put things, polygons and pins on the map. That's that's fine for the quick start, but I'm actually interested in being able to do something a little bit, I guess, more advanced. What I would like to do is I would like to have some sort of like geo data in the database, and I would like to surface that somehow on the leaflet map, right? So I think I want to do something a little bit more advanced than what the quick start goes over. So have you done any Django development? That's fine. Okay, that's okay. So what do you think should be the next thing we do, right? We need to somehow put some geodata in the database, right? So tell me what to write. Well, I want something a little bit more realistic, right? So what if we had something like an event, some sort of event creation website, and events have a location, like assuming that there's no coronavirus or whatever. Let's say that we wanted to make a meetup, a better meetup.com or something like that. Yeah, like my thing. So Mozilla. So right, what if we had an event model with a location, and then we surface those on a map or something? And I'm just blanking on the syntax for models. I usually go to this thing. So before the Vincent books were out, I would always refer people to this one as like, you've done the Django tutorial, you want something a little bit more meaty. This tutorial is a little bit more meaty. It has more stuff in it, so yeah, it's the Mozilla Django tutorial. So if you Google for Mozilla Django tutorial here, Django Web Framework, it's 11 parts, and it's much deeper than the official tutorial, and it's free, right? So this is a great resource. And right, so if we had book instance, author, yada yada yada, what if we just had something like this? And if we did an event has a title, char field, that's fine. Enter a book genre. So if it had a title, and if it was like, enter the title of your event. Yeah, so this is help text, and it'll be used in various situations. One situation where it might be used is in forms. You might render the help text as a tooltip or like next to the label, and we might go over that if we get there. I don't know. I want to sort of time box this. Because in the past I've done live streams that are like 3 hours long, and I feel like that's interesting. Like there are some people who are interested in that, but I think there's a bigger audience for videos that are a little bit more focused, like like a 20 or 30-minute video that's like on something more specific. So string for, I don't like that. I like string representation. I'll leave that. It's a very Java type approach to that. So let's say that an event has a title and a location. Now, I don't know if we're gonna go full Monty and do like the Django point field, which is a possibility. I want to see like what's the easiest way to interoperate between leaflet and Django. And there might be a more bare bones way, but there's the point field in GIS. So GIS forms, GIS models, point field. This is the Django model API. So there would be a geometry field, the point field, line string field, polygon field, yada yada yada. But Django X doesn't come with GeoDjango. You kind of have to add it separately. Maybe we can do something a little bit more, a little bit less fancy than the GeoDjango stuff. My guess is that we might just be able to store latitude and longitude and call it a day. Right, so this sets the center of the map. That's set view. And then here's a tile layer that pulls in from the Mapbox API. You set a zoom level, you set a style, size, yada yada. I would like to set like a pin, a marker. Okay, so maybe I do use some of this. So here would be a marker, latitude, longitude, add to map. And then there's a circle and there's a polygon, right? So this stuff isn't rocket science, it's just I've never used it, so. And let's say maybe the location, maybe we just do lat and long. Whoops. Lat equals models dot char field. Don't care about the max length. You know what? I'm gonna spell it out because I don't want it to be too terse. All right, latitude, longitude, they're both strings. I guess they could be floating points, but strings are fine. It's more about how the front end is going to parse it and pass it into the JavaScript library. So what if, this is how you can add a marker. And we can just see how that would work. Did it crash? Yeah, okay, so okay, so the max length is required. And so let's just go ahead and specify that. Okay, great. All right, so, all right, that's running and we got the marker. Now, but the marker is hard coded. So like, I would love to sort of, instead of having this hard coded, I would like to sort of have that be database powered. So I know that in the Django templates, you can sort of pass in variables and you can loop over them. So this is interesting. This is probably an anti-pattern, but you could probably loop over, right? So this JavaScript is still being passed in dynamically. So we could probably dynamically set the JavaScript. So this is not advisable, but if you can see through the matrix, you'll see that there's really nothing stopping you. So let's do for, is that right? For loop. Is it? I think it's for for event in events. Yeah, but the thing is the Django, the templating system, yeah, but the templating system, I mean, there's nothing stopping you from being able to do this, I think. So just want to double check how to do a for loop. We have to define that, so I'll get to that. Yeah, so for event in events, do something. And we'll just say that, well, we don't have to assign it into a variable, strictly speaking. We can just say marker blah, add to map, and then here we'll pull out event dot, we'll have to figure out the latitude and longitude, but latitude event dot longitude, right, and that would work. That would dynamically generate the JavaScript, and then the browser would execute that. Now here's the event model, and now we need sort of like, we need something. So this is the home, and so we're using class-based views, which I'm actually kind of rusty on. My understanding is that there's a function, there's a helper function, there's a subroutine here available that's called get context data, where you can, oh boy, return. So we don't want to return that. I always forget how to do this. I'll just Google it. Right, so they do context is equal to super. So that, and then decorate it, and then return context. And what's happening here is, okay, so the home page, we need to sort of pass back events, right? And then event, so this is the ORM, so you do objects.all, and that would return, yeah, thank you, nice catch. Event.objects.all will return all the events in the database, pass that up to the template, and then the template can render that. And latitude, longitude, latitude, longitude. I think that would just dump it in. And I think that would be fine. I wonder how it would behave with negatives, right? So we often have to deal with a negative. I think that's fine. All right. And so when we run this, we would expect no markers on the web page, on the map. Event is not defined. Okay, so we need to pull that in from models. Could do this cheat right here. No such table pages event. That's a good catch, yeah. These are custom aliases I've defined. So PM is Python manage.py, PMM is Python manage.py migrate, PMMM is Python manage.py make migrations. So, okay, so we have the map, and it pulls in all of the events in the database. The thing is, there are no events in the database. So we could, in the interest of time, try to create these in the admin panel. We have here 1, 2, 3. That's one of the things you missed in the beginning. I went ahead and created a super user, but we have, oh, we have to wire this up. So admin.py. There's multiple admin.pys, right? From models, import event, register your models here. I always forget. This is in the tutorial. Just in the interest of time, yeah. Because the correct way would be to make a completely like event form and then test that it actually is creating it correctly, which we can get to. Actually, we're just about the point where I want it to stop. I want to just put an event in the database and then see it on the UI. That's all I want, and then we can end the video. But I'm blanking on the last part where you register. Register model admin. You just want to do... Oh, damn it. I want to register it. Did you send it? It's alright. I figured it out. Alright, so we have these events. We have none. We create one. Let's say... let's make it about New York. So, Bronx party. And let's figure out the lat long for that. Okay, St. Mary's. Is it? Address. Do you know how to get the... Is it this? Oh, it's in the URL. These things. Okay, so we can do that. Let's have a party in the park. Alright, so we'll use the admin panel for this. We'll have to figure out which one is which. So if it's wildly inaccurate, then we just flip these. But you think this is right? Okay, so we'll save Bronx party, and then we'll have a Brooklyn party. And then we'll have a Brooklyn party. And we'll have to update the center of the map, but that should be not too hard. Well, it's hard to say. It's hard to say. But for example, we know that this is the center over here. So, yeah, maybe Manhattan. Honestly, I feel like if we reduce the precision, that might be enough. So who knows where the center would be, but that would be not. It would not be exactly whatever. We can you know, make it less precise, and it'll slowly be off, if you know what I mean. Because we're losing that information, and so it's actually pretty fun. Let's see. So this is prompted by I have a client that wants a primer on this, and I was like, well, okay, we can figure it out. I mean, it seems pretty precise. Yeah, so that's with the CSS. All right, so there it got kind of really off. So then, okay, this is the height. So maybe we double that, so, or that much. And then this zoom level seems to be too much. So we reduce that. Okay, so maybe we zoom in a little bit more. Okay, maybe make this taller. Well, actually, I'll just delete this. Don't need the header. Okay, so if I wanted to make it like the sensor go a little bit higher, we do it's this one, and this is a measure from the equator, right? So we want to increase this. Yeah, it's the angle from the equator to 90. What else? Okay, and then we actually want, oh wait, that actually works, right? We're already showing the stuff in the database. Okay, I think that's it. So are there any other questions about this before I stop the video? So I'm just using string interpolation here. Longitude. This is totally minor. Is that really the only question you had? So maybe just to recap what we did, basically we ran Django X, boilerplate, we followed the leaflet quick start to sort of load it onto the landing page. And we set the height of it, and we initialized it with this. This needs to initialize it. We registered with a data source, so apparently leaflet doesn't provide the data. You need to register with Mapbox, which provides the data. You set the access token this way after registering. And then we're actually, this is probably not advisable, but in the interest of time, we dynamically generated the JavaScript from using a Django template. The better way to do this would be to use something like JSON script. So there's a template thing, Django templates built in. There's this thing called JSON script, which is the more recommended way to communicate information from the database into JavaScript. So the problem here, or the issue here, is that leaflet and this map stuff is very JavaScript heavy, and that JavaScript needs to be aware of information in the database. So the better way to do this would be to basically have the template sort of pump up this variable, and instead of, it would be something like events, and something like this, like events. And then in the JavaScript, we would do something like, we would define events this way. So we would do something like this, and we would say, this is the events. And at this point, it would be a JSON, a piece of JSON. And we would instead, or rather, here's a comment. Here's a Django template comment, end comment. And we would instead do something purely in JavaScript. We would do, so for event in events, and we would do something like this. This is the more palatable way of doing this, I think. This actually could probably work. Well, events. This is an object, so this would be, we would want to do an object dot values events, maybe that way. Object of type query says not JSON is serializable. Well, it would be something like that. The issue here is that this is it's having JSON, or Django's having an issue serializing this query set into some JSON. So you would probably have to do something like events on objects all dot values list. Yeah, you would have to. Yeah, that would take more time than I want to do. You would have to sort of bridge the gap between a query set and some sort of JavaScript representation. Probably an array or something like that, but this would be the better way to do it, right? So this is like, you're just mixing up too many things for my taste. So we just did that just for like speed, for demonstration purposes. Okay. All right.